Welcome, and thank you for being with us today for our first talk of 2024, Muslim Women's Rulings, Issuing Fatwas in Indonesia with Dr. Noor Ismah. My name is Aliyah Khan, and I'm the director of the University of Michigan Global Islamic Studies Center. We're your hosts today. I'm also an associate professor in the Department of English and the Department of Afro-American and African Studies at U of M. I'll begin by introducing the Islamic Studies Center and what we do, and then acquaint you with the event and our speaker, and then I will give the floor to her and to our moderator. The U of M Global Islamic Studies Center aims to promote the understanding of global Islamic culture and Muslim societies worldwide, not just the Middle East, but Asia, Africa, and the Americas. We are an academic unit at the University of Michigan, but also a community member in Southeast Michigan. If you're a student, faculty, staff, or community member who's interested in our events, please join our newsletter and keep up with us on social media. We send out monthly newsletters, so make sure you subscribe. If you're a Michigan student wanting to get involved with our center, please attend our events. In addition, if you're an undergraduate student, declare our Islamic Studies minor. The minor has no prerequisites and it's 16 credits. You can find out more on our minor page on our website, but please reach out and contact us. If you're interested in graduate programs, check out our master's degree in international and regional studies with an Islamic studies specialization. The application deadline is December 15th, and you can also find more info on our website. The master's program is 36 credits total, pursued over the course of 2 years. If you're a U of M student or faculty member looking for funding for a project or event, our applications are open to undergraduate students, graduate students, and faculty at every level who are looking for funding for projects related to Islam and to Muslim societies and communities, including in the United States. We fund events and any projects related to Islamic studies and to Muslim societies. This includes travel, conference fees, language learning courses, internships, and more. Our applications for funding close April 29th, so please make sure to apply before then. In collaboration with the Arab and Muslim American Studies program in the Department of American Culture and with Dr. Suad Abdul Kabir, 2 years ago, we launched our Black Islam Graduate Student Fellowship, which supports research, language learning, travel, and conference engagements related to Black Islam and Black Muslim communities anywhere in the world. The application deadline is also at the end of next winter semester. This semester, in winter 2024, we have a number of exciting partnerships with communities and events to look forward to. Coming up after today is our ongoing Kahwa and Authors book launch series, which will feature young adults, so YA, Muslim American authors, reading from their work at 27th Letter Books, which is an independent bookstore in Detroit. That's on Thursday, February 22nd at 6 p.m. Also, at Cups and Chai Tea in Canton, after Ramadan, we will be holding Michigan Professor 5-minute community flash talks asking what's new in Islamic studies. So please stay tuned for more information. We are also co-sponsoring a film series at the Michigan Theater, Palestine on Screen, a monthly journey through the rich tapestry of Palestinian cinema. That is Sundays at 1:30 p.m. at the theater from this week until May. For our Kahwa and Author series, the lineup is author Laila Sabreen, writing on Black Muslim girlhood, Leila Abdelrazak on her graphic novel about her father's life in a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, Mariam Metoui in the supernatural suspense YA genre, and Sabina Khan on South Asian Desi immigrant girls in North America. For the Palestine on Screen film series, the feature films are Lila's Birthday This Week, Then When I Saw You, My Love Awaits by the Sea, The Stones Cry Out, and Bye Bye Tiberius. I'd like to thank our co-sponsors for today's event. This talk on Indonesian Muslim women scholars is brought to you by the Global Islamic Studies Center and co-sponsored at the University of Michigan by the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, the Digital Islamic Studies Curriculum, and the Institute for Research on Women and Gender. This talk is also part of our ongoing GISC Rabbi Elliott T. Spar Politics and Culture in the Muslim World series. In this series, generously funded by the Spar family, each talk focuses on a different region or country in the Muslim world that is under-recognized in U.S. discourse on Islam and Muslims. I will now introduce our speaker and moderator, and they will take it from there. Dr. Noor Ismah is Deputy Director at the Institute of Southeast Asian Islam at Sunan Kalijaga State Islamic University in Indonesia. She holds a master's degree in Southeast Asian Studies from the School of Pacific and Asian Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the U.S., completing her studies in 2012 with the support of the International Fellowship Program of the Ford Foundation. Subsequently, from 2016 to 2023, she pursued her PhD studies at the Leiden University Institute for Area Studies, sponsored by the Indonesia Endowment Fund for Education under the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia. Her research focuses on critical areas such as Islam, women's knowledge and production, and media. In recognition of her scholarly achievements, Dr. Noor Ismah was awarded the Colibri Early Career Research Fellowship at the Institute of Asian and African Studies at Humboldt University Berlin from May to July 2023. She is the recipient of the 2023-2024 Association of Asian Studies Gosling Lim Postdoctoral Fellowship in Southeast Asian Studies, which is hosted at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at U of M Ann Arbor. So she is with us as a postdoctoral fellow for this year. Our moderator, Daniel Birchok, is an associate professor of anthropology at the University of Michigan, Flint. He is a historical anthropologist who studies religion in Indonesia with a focus on Sufism, the Islamic historical imagination, ethics, and an old Islam in public life. He is currently completing a historical ethnography of a family of Islamic saints in Aceh, Indonesia, focusing on the ways in which intercessionary practices associated with these saints might help scholars to rethink approaches to Islamic ethical life. As a reminder, we will have a Q&A session after the presentations. The chat is disabled, so please submit your questions at any time using the Q&A icon you will see on the bottom of your screen. Your questions and comments are visible to the panelists, but not to the general audience. Once questions are answered, they will be visible to everyone. So thank you, and we hope that you find this talk illuminating. I will turn it over to Dr. Noor Ismah now.
Thank you, Dr. Alia, for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to say thanks to the Global Islamic Studies Center at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, the Digital Islamic Studies Curriculum, and the Institute for Research on Women and Gender. Many thanks for having me here to share about my research on how Muslim women in Indonesia go about issuing fatwas. Thanks also to Daniel, and big greeting to all my friends and colleagues tuning in. I'm happy to have you all here with us. Before I start my presentation, I would like to share my screen. So the title of my presentation is Muslim Women's Ruling Issuing Fatwa in Indonesia. My presentation is based on my dissertation research that I conducted in 2017 and early 2018. I employ an anthropology of fatwa and also gender approach as a complement to an Islamic studies. So I use tools from the field of Islamic studies, as the fatwa is a mode of exercising female Islamic authority based on textual exegesis, and tools from anthropology to examine the role of women Muslim and the kind of authority they have in issuing fatwas within specific social, often informal contexts. I've explored women's fatwa making in grassroots initiative, male-dominated fatwa settings, social movement, and printed media. But for my presentation today, I will focus only on Muslim women issuing fatwas at the grassroots level. I will delve into the women capable of being ulama in local communities and the basis of their authority. I will also discuss the extent to which Muslim women can issue fatwas, including formulation and communication. And lastly, I will examine the norms, power structures, state institutions empowering women's authority in local communities and those constraining them. My presentation centers around my observation of 4 individuals who I deliberately selected as my sources for discussing the exercise of juristic authority at the grassroots. So we have Ibu Afwah Mumtazah. Ibu is a nickname in Bahasa Indonesia, referring to women as a kind of respect. Ibu Afwah Mumtazah was born in 1973. She is from Cirebon, West Java. And then we have Mbak Khotimatul Husna. She was born in 1979 from Bantul, Yogyakarta. And Nyi Siti Rokoya. She was born in 1970 from Bondowoso, East Java. And lastly, Ibu Umi Hani. She was born in 1970 from Demak, Central Java. So all of these women are from Java Island, but from different part of Java. And all of these women, they are graduated from the PUP program. This is the Female Ulama Training Program organized by Rahima. I've gotten to know these 4 key conversational partners quite well, and their diverse locations, backgrounds, and perspectives have provided me with a rich understanding of women exercising juristic authority in various social and cultural contexts. So as you can see on the picture, we have 2 pictures. The left side is a picture taken from Basul Masail, which is Fatwa Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama in 2017 when I attended this program. And most of the participants are men. The next picture, which is taken from the Indonesian Congress of Women Ulama in 2017. And the participant, most of the participants were women. So before going further, I would like to explain some terms that I use often during my presentation. First is ulama perempuan or female ulama. Ulama perempuan is bahasa Indonesia, and also nyai, mubalik, and ustadzah. The term ulama perempuan specifically refers to women who possess the quality of being authoritative Islamic sources and is not as commonly used in the as the term nyai, mubaligho, or ustadzah in Indonesia. In everyday language, these 3 terms, which are nyai, mubaligho, and ustadzah, imply a lower level of quality, capability, and or authority compared to the term ulama. Nyai refers to the wife of pesantren leaders or Islamic boarding school. Sorry. Mubaligha is a female preacher who typically gives Islamic speeches in the public, while Ustadzah is a female Islamic teacher in schools or majlis ta'lim or Islamic learning gathering. These terms are sometimes used interchangeably, meaning a nyai can be seen as mubaligha or Ustadzah, and vice versa for the other terms. However, not all nyais are mubalighah or ustadah, and the same goes for mubalighah or ustadah, not necessarily being a nyai. Nyi Rukoya, Bu Afa Mumtazah, Mbak Fatimatul Husna, and Ibu Mihani first encountered and learned about the term female ulama through the PUP program, providing them with a new perspective. They agreed that adding perempuan or female to the term ulama is acceptable because becoming an ulama is not exclusively for men. Ulama perempuan or female ulama, according to them, are women with qualities of individual piety and mastery of Islamic knowledge, which is the main prerequisite for being an ulama as expected by Indonesian Muslims. Another condition is expressing public piety while using their knowledge for the benefit of others. In addition to mastering Islamic knowledge and being a role model in society, my research participants emphasize that a crucial criterion for ulama is having a gender perspective and a concern for disadvantaged and oppressed people, including women. The concept of female ulama, as explained by the four leaders or the four female ulama, aligns with the definition given in the PUP program. The PUP is a crucial program conducted by Rahima, a Jakarta-based Muslim women NGO, initiated in 2001, and in August 2005, Rahima launched this PUP program, aiming to prepare female ulama cadre with expertise in classical Islamic knowledge from Al-Quran, Hadith, and Kitab Kuning, which is Islamic classical books learned in the Islamic boarding schools in Indonesia. The program also focuses on developing a gender perspective, critical thinking on injustice, organizational and mobilization skills, and establishing a legitimate position in society to issue authoritative fatwas and drive social change. PUP meetings were divided into several learning classes based on subjects evolving from one cohort to the next. The subject include tafsir, hadith, fiqh studies, or about Islamic jurisprudence, reproductive health, method of issuing fatwas, and female leadership. And in the PUP program, this female ulama learn principles for interpreting Islamic texts, which are to consider historical and social context, to be aware of gender equality, to use verses supporting gender equality, to consider gender equality in interpretation, and lastly, to consider women's voices in interpretation. They also apply the Mubadalah method, which is the hermeneutic of reciprocity, substantive justice, and also the approach of ma'ruf or goodness. One aspect that I studied in my research was how these women exercise authority through issuing fatwas. So what is fatwa? Fatwa represents a religious viewpoint on matters related to Islamic law or ethics offered by a scholar in response to an inquiry from a Muslim believer. Nevertheless, in Indonesian context, fatwa are not legally binding. Individuals can choose to follow or ignore fatwas. While individual ulama can issue fatwas, it's often associated with a collective effort within a fatwa-making institution. Examining fatwa making in Indonesia, we should consider major organizations like Muhammadiyah, Nahdlatul Ulama, and the Indonesian Ulama Council, or MUI, that organize such forums. And women's participation in this fatwa forum is limited. For example, in the Indonesian Ulama Council in 1975 from 1975 to 1998, only up to 5 female ulama were in the fatwa committee. In 2017, when I did my research, the MUI's 38 leadership council members, only 5 were women. and within the 72-member Fatwa Commission, only 7 were women. Despite male dominance, challenges are emerging, particularly post-Reformation, as women assert juristic authority influenced by Muslim NGOs fostering critical thinking among Indonesian Muslims since 1980. These are the pictures from my fieldwork. There is Nyi Rukoya in her Masjid Taklim. This Masjid Taklim was conducted after Maghrib prayer. So usually Nyi Rukoya explain about some lesson from Islam, and then the Jama'ah or the congregation ask a question related to the lesson that delivered by Nyi Rukoya. So next, I'm going to discuss about the everyday practices of issuing fatwas by female ulama at the grassroots level. I will break down my explanation into 4 parts. The setting, the istifta, which is the process of asking fatwas, the answer, and the effectiveness of fatwas. These women typically express their Islamic opinions during the question and answer sessions at Islamic gathering or Majlis Taklim, following lessons on Islamic jurisprudence or Islamic ethics. Additionally, people often reach out to them personally at their homes or send questions via a short message and also WhatsApp, seeking answers on Islamic matters. The istifta or the process of asking fatwa highlights the link between questions from the congregation and their needs for knowledge on Islamic legal issues in daily life. The questions are straightforward, simple, reflecting what they hear and what they ask. Nyi Rukoya and Ibu Mihani share example related to circumcision, a topic their congregation doesn't inquire about because they don't practice it. Bu Alfa notes that questions don't arise from 4 issues that are not problematic in the experience of the congregation. For example, wearing jilbab or hijab is so mainstream and uncontroversial that her students in pesantren have never asked about its legality, as these women or these students have always worn it. The question of the Jama'ah, generally, Jama'ah means the Islamic congregation, generally concern daily Islamic jurisprudence related to things like purification, worship, marriage issues, and social interaction, as well as Islamic ethics related to contemporary issues such as cosmetic facial surgery and women's roles in society. It's important to note that the questions posed to these female ulama are not limited to women issues. For example, Ibu Afah Mumtazah once got a question about usury. So the question is, my child works at the bank. What is the legal judgment of it? Because a bank is dealing with usury, isn't it? Should my child resign? However, there are also questions that are specifically related to Islamic jurisprudence on women, including topics about menstruation, nifas or after childbirth, and Islamic rules related to violence against women, rape, and polygamy. Questions that are put to Ibu Hani, for example, I have menstrual bleeding constantly. If it's like this, how should I pray? Another example is I use contraception. So my menstruation is not normal. Sometimes there is blood, sometimes not. Can I pray or not? Question put to Nyi Rukoya includes, can women attend high school? Can a woman work outside her home? And is the wife guilty if she cannot get pregnant? Bu Afwan has been asked questions about the law of talak or divorce. on a woman who is pregnant. So these are some examples related to picking on women. When it comes to violence against women, this usually doesn't only require a religious viewpoint, but also a practical response and assistance with the follow-up. For example, Nyi Rukoyah once encountered a woman victim of domestic violence. Her face was blue because her husband beat her. In such cases, Nyi Rukoyah not only explains the Islamic rules related to violence in marriage, which is forbidden, but she also tries to support the victim by helping her to decide about her life and providing with a safe shelter and mediation with her husband. In this process, I noticed that female ulama issuing fatwas not just based on knowledge, but also by considering the circumstances of the mustafti or the person who asked for fatwa. The close relationship between female ulama and their congregation requires trust. Istifta, or the process of asking for fatwa, become a safe space where individuals can freely share problems and get legal solution without worrying about confidentiality or judgment. Bu Afa Mumtaza, for example, shared an example of women struggling with polygyny, seeking advice without feeling ashamed. Moreover, the congregation finds space to share burdens and support each other, especially for victims of violence against women. To respond to their congregation's questions, Bu Afwa Mbak Fatim, Nyi Ruqayyah, and Bu Hani refer to the Quran, Hadith, and Shafi'i school of fiqh that is written on Kitab Kuning. They apply gender perspective and use mubadalah, as I mentioned before, and also substantive justice for analysis and interpretation. Drawing on their experiences as women, they examine problems and formulate answers. Nyi Ruqayyah notes that the Kitab Kuning, or the Islamic classical book learned in pesantren and also hadith, might be like those used by male ulama, but the understanding and interpretation might differ. Female ulama also consider the social and cultural background of the mustafti when providing answers. They might not always mention references, as the congregation seeks simple, straightforward, and quick answers. Bu Afwah bases her opinions on the logic of Ad-Darurah al-Khamsah, which includes preserving religion, life, intellect, progeny, and property. When responding to questions, she ensures not to violate these 5 basic rights. For example, addressing working in a bank, like I mentioned before, she emphasizes the intention for survival. So she doesn't detail how she formulates opinions. Adhering to these principles, Bu Afwah believes her religious views align with human rights principles. In addition to the usual fatwa making preceded by istifta, Ibu Umi Hani issues her Islamic opinions in response to problems faced by her congregation without waiting for questions. For example, when a member asked to shorten the mourning period for her deceased husband due to financial constraint, Bu Hani was inspired to call for an end to serving food during the recitation. This decision, considered as Islamic legal opinion, gained support in her village and neighboring areas. From the experiences of the 4 female ulama, I noticed their Islamic opinion holds authoritative weight as a source of Islamic rules within their grassroots congregation. The community accepts and applies their views in daily life, exemplified by Ibu Hani's fatwa changing the tradition of catering during prayers for the deceased. They don't require extensive references because the female ulama themselves are seen as sufficient references. This recognition might be due to the community-based authority these individual ulama established within their local settings, which is often stronger than institutional authorities at the national level. So this is the picture of Ibu Umi Hani. She often deliver religious learning in the mosque, while female jamaah are attending her lesson. The next part, I will explain about enabling and constraining factors of these women ulama in playing their role as ulama. Although the Jamaah or the Islamic congregation and some male leaders recognize Ibu Alfa Mumtazah, Khotimatul Husna, Nyi Ruqayyah, and Ibu Ani as ulama, they encounter differing opinions from other men, including husband and male ulama. Despite their activities, some men believe things like Ustadah or Mubalighah, which is Islamic teachers and Islamic preachers, suit them better than ulama. This perspective stems from the notion that ulama must be profound in all aspects of religious knowledge, and according to this man, these women have not yet reached that level of expertise. Experiences of Bu Afwa, Bu Hani, and Nyi Ruqayyah reveal that some men see female ulama as a challenge to the established male dominance in interpreting Islamic texts. Female ulama bring awareness and gender justice and address social injustice from a woman's perspective in Majlis Taklim. Bu Hani class. So she has experience of having class with male modin. Modin is an appointed religious guides in the village level due to the statement about women taking on the role of modin, specifically in caring for deceased women's bodies. Bu Hani's experience show instances of discrimination against and othering of women in playing a role as ulama from a male's point of view. Bu Hani told me that the modin quote a very crude proverb which is in bahasa Indonesia. Perempuan bisanya cuma bikin sambal sama pegang cowek. It means that women can only cook the spicy sauce and hold the grinder. So this is indicating that women's only rightful territory is the domestic sphere. This dispute ended with the sub-district religious affairs office allowed Ibu Hani and her competent female congregation to become modins. In another incident, Ibu Hani was asked to stop leading a Quranic recitation because her voice was considered aurat according to this male ulama. So participating in ulama training programs such as the POP and being involved in the Indonesian Congress of Women's Ulama Movement has not only enhanced these women's capacities, but also fostered connection and solidarity. This has been beneficial in strengthening their role as ulama. This is the picture from Ibu Afwa Mumtazah Pesantren. So she is teaching female students in her pesantren. The picture in the last slide is Mbak Khotimatul Husna. She is delivering speech in Fatayat program in 2019. So to conclude my presentation, I would like to say that the terms ulama and fatwa are gendered configuration of authority. Therefore, women have to take a long path to be able to build their ulama-ness and play a role as ulama and fatwa givers. These women apply their understanding of their gender subjectivities in taking up social position as ulama and in using their various form of capital to build their juristic authority at the grassroots level through fatwa giving. I argue that the authority of female ulama depends on its acceptance, description, and recognition by a community. Both positive and negative responses from male authorities regarding women who play a role as ulama indicate the changing circumstances of Islamic authority and ulama in Indonesia. Women are now entering the field and playing a role that was previously dominated by men. I think that's all what I have. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the question and answer session.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to offer a very quick response and then some questions to Dr. Noor Ismah. I want to begin first by just noting how much of a pleasure and an honor it is to get to respond to Dr. Ismah's paper or her presentation. I've known Dr. Ismah now for about a decade. We've had conversations on and off. We first met actually at a conference on female religious authority in Southeast Asia, and that's where our conversation sort of began. And it's just really fun to have her here and to be able to respond to this presentation. And I want to kind of frame my questions in terms of what I see as some of Ismah's strengths in her paper, and in her work in general, right? And that's the way that she brings together attention to what in the Southeast Asian context we often think of as a traditionalist kind of Islamic practice, or in other contexts might be thought of as a scholastic tradition, and her familiarity with that tradition, her attention to it, thinking of it both as an object to study, but also as an object of knowledge from which to draw, as well as her ethnographic and anthropological sensibilities. And in particular, and she cited this earlier in her presentation, work on the anthropology of the fatwa, which, I think of that as being coined by Hussein Ali Agrama, but incorporates a lot of work. And I think she brings these kind of approaches together very nicely in all of her work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask some questions that kind of riff on both of those two strengths of her work. So some of them will be about the anthropology of the fatwa and ethnography, and then some of them will be about that kind of traditionalist or scholastic tradition and how that informs what the women ulama that she is writing about and presenting on informs their work. And I'll note, I saw something go out in the chat. You can begin to put your questions in the Q&A. We'll kind of go back and forth for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to ask like one question at a time so that this is more conversational. And then at the end of my questions, I'll start to draw on yours. So I do want to begin with the anthropology of the fatwa stuff, especially being an ethnographer myself. And I really enjoyed in this presentation how you fleshed out the space that these women ulama work in, how it's a safe space, and the ways in which that is conducive to certain kinds of questions. But I want to know, can you tell us anything more about where these fatwas circulate once women leave that space, once they leave the immediate majlis taklim or the immediate opportunity to ask one of these women for the fatwa? And I'm curious because that helps me to think about their authority, right? So do women, like, for instance, in the cases of domestic violence, like, do women leave and then use that fatwa in any way to try to counteract what's happening to them, or to protect a friend or neighbor? Do they speak to others about some of the rulings on prayer and menstruation and these sorts of things? Like, and does that ever include men, right? So do we know anything about what happens after the initial encounter? You're still muted, Isma. Sorry. You're still muted, Ismah. Sorry. You have to unmute. Maaf ya.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your remarks and also your questions. So if I understand you correctly, you asked me where are the fatwa circulated? Like what happened after this women or the congregation, the Jama'ah, asked something to female ulama and the female ulama give them the answer. So the circulation of fatwa is actually more private because this is the individual fatwa making. So only between the mustafti or the person asking for fatwa with female ulama. So any legal opinion or related to Islamic jurisprudence or Islamic ethic can be applied or used by the person who is asking for fatwa only. But if the fatwa seeker share her opinion or this female ulama opinion with her friends or her family, it can be circulated widely. I mean, not only with this individual fatwa seeker. And because this is like more private and individual fatwa making, so the possibility of effectiveness of fatwa, so the application of fatwa is, I think, more how to say, more possible because when someone come to female ulama and ask something, which it means that they need guidance, they need like explanation or opinions about something that she or he's facing at that time. And then the opinion of this female ulama, it's considered like an authoritative opinion that the mustafti can use in her or his everyday life. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question in this vein about the anthropology of the fatwa. What about men? Are there ever any contexts in which men come to these women as religious authorities for advice, or maybe they don't come, but they send someone, they send a female friend or family member to inquire. And if so, about what? Like, how are those questions different? And I have to apologize. You can begin to answer. I have to let my dog out of the office. I knew this was going to happen. I'm so embarrassed, but so please begin. I'll be back in like 10 seconds. So.
Should I wait? Okay. So as I remember, Ibu Umi Hani, she has this kind of experience. So there is a husband and wife, and the husband has something to ask, but he is like reluctant to ask directly to Ibu Umi Hani, and then he asked his wife to ask the question to Ibu Umi Hani. But I forgot what it's about. But yeah, I have that like note from my field work that it's also happened. So instead of asking directly to female ulama, the husband ask his wife to ask a question to a female ulama.
Great. So this kind of thing does happen. There are men in the community who
yeah, but I forgot the question.
That's okay. We can talk about it later.
I thought, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to ask, I think, one or two more questions, because I see that the Q&A is starting to populate. But I want to kind of shift gears now away from the anthropology of the fatwa and talk a little bit more about the particular Islamic tradition that these women seem to participate in. And based on your presentation, I would think of that as, again, in Southeast Asia, we often call this a traditionalist kind of tradition. For those of you who are familiar with the Southeast Asian context, most of these women, I gather, are associated with Nahdlatul Ulama. We might think of this as scholastic or a madrasa tradition. In Southeast Asia, we would use the term pesantren, right? And I want you to comment a little bit on what the significance of that is. How that buttresses the authority of the women, the ways in which they draw on sources from that tradition, both the Shafi'i legal texts, but also the yellow text, the Kitab Kuning, and maybe if you have any ideas as to why this movement has arisen in this tradition as opposed to other traditions in Indonesia, such as Muhammadiyah, which is a more kind of modernist, Abduyan inspired movement. So yeah, I just want you to generally comment a bit on what the significance of the particular tradition these women are coming out of is for understanding what they're doing and their authority. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think the significance of women's fatwa making in the traditionalist context for me as a researcher is actually women's issuing fatwas in Indonesia is not something new. So this already happened from the past. If we look at the history, first I read from the book written by Ibu Nelly van Doorn Harder. She explained the history of the establishment of musola, the place for prayer for women in Kauman, and this musola was built by Aisyah. Aisyah is the women wing of Muhammadiyah, and they have a certain norm or Islamic ethic related to women, and also about Islamic jurisprudence related to women. And I understand that this kind of norm or ethic issued by these women in the Asia can be called as fatwa. So issuing fatwas for women is not something new. And I think beside these 4 female ulama that I studied, there are many other women ulama who are also doing the same thing, like giving religious learning in the mosque or in her village, and then after that there is question and answer, and the Islamic congregation ask her about something related to practicing Islam in everyday life. And by surfacing this experience, I think we can say that actually issuing fatwas is not exclusively done by men, but women also. And the methodology that is used by this female ulama is also not something new, because they also use the same resources like the male ulama have done, like referring to Quran, Hadith, and Kitab Kuning. But the new thing is that these women use women experiences as to be considered in the process of fatwa making, and also thinking about Indonesian Constitution and other approach such as mubadalah and substantive justice. Yeah.
Okay, and is there anything particular about the way in which these women do that because of the tradition they come from? Because they come predominantly from pesantren traditions, for instance?
Yeah, most of the because I only studied women from traditionalist background, which is Nahdlatul Ulama. So most of these female ulama are graduated from pesantren, and in pesantren they learn about Kitab Kuning and also other um, like established fatwa methodology, like applying, for example, Ibu Afwah Mumtazah also use Ad-Daruratul Khamsah. So that's from pesantren knowledge.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start to move to the Q&A because we have a lot of questions here. And I'm just going to read through. I'll go ahead and put them into the Q&A for others to see. So this one says, I'm just going to read it. It says, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for your presentation. With regards to the NUI, the NUE, how does it align with national Indonesian Islamic practice? And how does it connect with the primary historical imam of the country? I presume this means Imam Shafi'i, that this is a reference to Shafi'i jurisprudence. So do you want to take a stab at this? I think the question is asking about historical continuities.
Is it MUI? I think so.
It might be.
Yeah,
I was
not
wondering about that as well. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So if I understand this question correctly, mm, yeah, the answers or the fatwa issued by these female ulama align with the Indonesian Islamic practices, which is follow Shafi'i, and also the MUI. So because most of Muslim in Indonesia follow Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i as the for everyday worship practices. So these women, female ulama, issue fatwas that are aligned with the like majority majority Muslim in Indonesia related to religious practices in everyday life.
Okay,
I
yeah.
hope this answered the questions.
Yeah, no, good. I think that was helpful. I think I mean, yeah, in some ways the question is asking about continuities, right? And what I hear you saying is that there are a lot of continuities between the way these women interpret texts and situations. So okay, I'm gonna throw this one out next. This attendee asks, you mentioned that sometimes people issue fatwas on WhatsApp. Could you speak more about this? And if you know, is this common worldwide?
Yeah, so normally when the fatwa seeker asks something through WhatsApp, they will send the question through WhatsApp, and then the female ulama will answer the question through WhatsApp as well. And according to my interview with most of the these four female ulama, they said that answering question from WhatsApp or written text is easier compared to delivering fatwa through like question and answer session, because when they are writing fatwas through WhatsApp or short message, they have some time to think, and also to provide like more comprehensive resources, and then write it down on the WhatsApp or short message.
And can you say how common it is for maybe not worldwide, that
Yeah,
might be a lot to
it's
ask, but
common. It's common. Like for example, Ibu Umihani, she said that like almost every day she has at least one question from her jamaah.
Okay, all right. So we'll go to this one. This one is from Bakir Mohammed, who says, thanks a lot, Ibu Nur Ismah, for the interesting presentation. I want to ask about the expectation of women in general when they join the club of religious leaders in all religions. Do they have the same expectations? And maybe I might just editorialize a little bit here, and maybe we can focus on the women that you have studied. And I think what this question is asking about is, are the expectations on women ulama the same as they are on male ulama? Do they follow the same practices? Like, what are some of the similarities and differences between the women ulama that you're studying and their male counterparts? Might be an entry point.
I think they have more similarities compared to differences, I would say. But the difference is that when someone has question, especially women, and the question related to their private experience, so it might be difficult for her to ask question to male ulama to have answer compared to asking such question to female ulama. And another difference, if I can say, is it still happen when like I mentioned before, so to call someone which is women as ulama can be more difficult compared to calling men as ulama, because for some conservative people, they still think that women can be a leader or women can be a religious guide who explain about Quran, about Hadith, although the women are graduated from Islamic boarding school, for example, but because there is a inherent like stereotype and also stigma about women, according to misogynist hadith or other interpretation that say that the brain of women is half from men. That's why when women say something, it's still questionable. But if men say something, people tend to acknowledge that, oh, this is right, this is true.
So there's still a lot of that bias,
Yeah,
the way
still.
in which, the authority of these women. Okay, great. So the next question I want to put across is from Taha Ralph. And Taha asks, are the fatwas being studied here eliciting a yes or no answer? So are the questions like yes or no questions, which has traditionally been the role of the ulama, or do they undertake meaning making as well, right? So do the responses and do the questions go beyond yes or no to get at larger sorts of things or not?
Does she mean the fatwa?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
right.
question
Yeah,
and the answer. Yeah.
I think most of the answer is not only, I mean, yes or no, but there is further explanation. because the question is, for example, what is the legal judgment of working in a bank? And bank is usually dealing with usury. So the answer is not yes, you can work in a bank, or no, you cannot work in a bank. But usually the answer related to some legal judgment. For example, this is forbidden, or this is lawful, unlawful, and then there is explanation why this is lawful, this is unlawful. So not just yes or no, but there is further explanation about the answer.
Yeah, and maybe I might just follow up on this question by asking, so there's the yes or no. It sounds like you're saying too that the fatwas often do more than just answer the question. They answer the question and then contextualize and offer more. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so an anonymous attendee asks, is it common to have women issue fatwas in other areas outside of Indonesia, other than Indonesia? Have you seen this in other countries or other Muslim communities? And then I'm gonna add to this. There's another question that asks specifically about Malaysia. So, what is the status of women's ulama's decisions in Malaysia in comparison to Indonesia? And also, how does Indonesia compare to elsewhere in the Muslim world? So, both of these questions are about how this compares to other parts of the world and women in other parts of the Islamic world. So can you speak to that?
I think when there is Islamic congregation led by female ulama, and then this female ulama delivered Islamic lessons in the congregation, and after that there is question and answer. I would say that yeah, they also actually practicing fatwa making in that congregation, and I believe that other countries other than Indonesia, most of female Muslim, they have such congregation. And I would say that actually in that congregation or in that Majlis Ta'lim, these women are actually issuing fatwas, because fatwa is like Islamic legal opinion. It can be related to Islamic jurisprudence or Islamic ethics, but their practices is more like individual, not like in the or done by collective ulama in fatwa forum or fatwa institution.
And there you're talking generally, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you able to, the second question was focused on Malaysia, which is an interesting comparison to Indonesia. For those who don't know, in Malaysia and Indonesia, at one point we could think of them as part of a broader Malay world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a linguistic heritage there. There are Islamic traditions that are shared. So, how does what you're describing here compare to what you may know about Malaysia?
I think in Malaysia, the fatwa is legally binding, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a fatwa institution that the fatwa issued by this institution can be legally binding. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if we talk about individual fatwa making, I believe, or I assume that there are female ulama who are issuing fatwas individually, but in the context of like collective fatwa making, like in Indonesia, I haven't heard about such practice. But in Indonesia, we have two types of fatwa making done by women. First is individual fatwa, like the one I explained in my presentation. So the fatwa is issued by individual female ulama at the grassroots level for individual Muslim believers. And another type of fatwa making in Indonesia by female ulama is like collective fatwa making, which is done in the Indonesian Congress of Women Ulama. So for individual fatwa, I assume that many other countries or Muslim countries, actually they have such practices. But for collective fatwa making done by women ulama, I haven't heard about that experience other than in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. In some ways, that's a good segue to the next question. So I'm gonna throw this one out. This is from Mohammed Ikwanuddin, who says, thank you for the time and sharing. My name is Mohammed Ikwanuddin, one of the lecturers in the Department of Islamic Family Law at the Muhammadiyah University of Surabaya. And Mohammed has two questions. I'll just ask the question. So the first question is, what do you think about Muslim women's roles in major departments of fatwa, so issuing fatwas, such as the MOE, Muhammadiyah, and Nahdlatul Ulama? So you briefly mentioned this in your presentation, but can you speak a little bit to, when I say you mentioned it, you had those great images of the Women's Fatwa Council and then the General Fatwa Council, which was overwhelmingly men, right? And so the first question is about women's roles on those general fatwa councils of these major organizations. Let's start there, and then I'll ask the second question.
Right now, I see that there is some change happen. For example, in the Majlis Ulama Indonesia, the Indonesian Council of Ulama. So the new board member of the MUI, there are a number of female ulama involved in the Fatwa Commission. I'm not sure about the number, but I could say that the number is increasing compared to sit in the Fatwa Commission. So I think it's important to like open up possibility and also chance for women to be involved in such fatwa forum, because in the process of fatwa making, sometimes women's perspective bring new nuance in the process of decision or answering a problem question for fatwa.
Okay, and before I ask Mohammed Ikwanuddin's second question, I want to go back to the comparison with Malaysia, if that's okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm thinking here of Michael Pellitz's work. One of the places where women have a role in fatwa making in Malaysia is in the Islamic court system, right? And I'm curious how that compares to Indonesia, the role of women in the Islamic court system in Indonesia.
I'm not sure about in Indonesia, but if we talk about courts, it means that the decision produced or issued from the court is legally binding, right? But fatwa is not something that is legally binding in Indonesia. So I think this is like main difference between Indonesian fatwa making practices compared to Malaysia.
Okay, cool. And then Mohammed Ikwanuddin's second question here is about an event, Tadarus Shubu, which it seems is now being held every Sunday morning by Dr. Fakhruddin Abdul Qadir. And it seems like what he's saying is that this event involves women as speakers, right? And so he's asking what you think about that, or if you're looking forward to it, is how I understand the question. So do you want to, you seem to know what this is. Do you want to tell us more about it and what you think about it?
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of having like digital and also technology advancement, because it's open up chance and also possibility for women to play more role as religious guides or religious speaker.
Okay, and so
Because yeah, Tadara Subuh is conducted through like Zoom meeting, and then the video from Zoom meeting is uploaded on YouTube.
and so I think the question may be about whether this is another opportunity to expand the authority of women, such as the one who once
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Great. So Muhammad Ikhwanuddin left his email address here, so you can follow up with him. I think he wants to continue the conversation. So this attendee just says Kasi, so like thank you. I want to make sure we acknowledge that because it acknowledges you. And then here's a good question from Noor Atmaka or Atmacha. They say, thanks very much for your presentation, Dr. Ismah. I wanted to ask if there is somehow political context of these women Jama'ahs, such as whether they have any influence in the local elections, for instance, having a collective decision for voting a certain party or candidate. So this question is about the political influence of the women fatwa givers that you are studying. Do they influence elections? Are they involved in politics in any other way? Yeah, I'll let you answer this question as you see fit.
Yeah, I think the religious leaders in Indonesia, they have opportunity and also like authority to influence such decision in the political election. So for example, like one of my research participant, when there is like local election, for example, with the election of bupati, how to say in English, bupati or kepala desa, this female ulama, she has like the authority to say to the her jamaah that you could choose this person because blah 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 blah, and not to choose this person because blah 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 blah. And usually, because the typical character of people in the village, they like to follow what their leader or their religious leader say, or their ulama say. So they can choose what is suggested by this female ulama.
Okay, so I just want to notify the audience. I just realized I thought I was sending the questions out for you to see. I actually was not. I'm doing that now. So I'm gonna start sending these questions out for you as they go out, and I apologize for that. Okay, the next question. I love this question in part because of its its ethnographic sensibility. This is a question that an anthropologist would likely ask. It's a very simple question, and the question is, do you have a favorite fatwa that you've seen during your research?
Yeah, I have, and it was issued by the Indonesian Congress of Female Ulama, which is about the child marriage. So the first Congress of the first Congress of Indonesian Female Ulama. It was in 2017. They issued 3 fatwas. First is about sexual violence. Second is child marriage, and the third fatwa is about natural degradation impacting on women. And my favorite fatwa is about child marriage. Why? Because these women are very creative in composing the question for the fatwa, because the topic about child marriage is debatable. One, like a conservative group, say that a girl can be married as long as she already she already has menstruation. And if we talk about menstruation, sometimes a girl get menstruation in the age of 9 or 8, or even like 7, but other girls might get menstruation like 16 and above. And when a girl has menstruation like in the age of 9, it means that they can be get married, although according to according to law, that she is still considered as a child, and the practice of this marriage can be said as early child marriage, and it's forbidden according to law. And in order to avoid this debate, these women ulama compose a creative question. Instead of asking what is the legal judgment of child marriage, the Congress compose or formulate the question by asking what is the legal judgment of preventing child marriage that give like harm impact to children. And with such question, the answer must be to prevent child marriage that harm the children is lawful, right? So I think this is like a very creative way to avoid the debate, but at the end they can reach the goal, which is to issue more gender sensitive and also just fatwa.
Yeah, so that was an example of it very much was about the question that was asked, right?
Yeah.
And asking a question that led to a particular result. Okay, here's another, I mean, these are all great questions. This attendee wants to know what happens if people do not follow the guidance of the fatwa, right? And so, I mean, this is a classic question about fatwas because they're not binding, right? They're opinions. And yet, are there forms of sanction? Like what would happen if a woman came to one of these majlis taklim and got a fatwa and then didn't follow its advice?
No problem. So this the fatwa seeker doesn't use the fatwa, right? So doesn't follow the fatwa. Yeah, it's no problem because fatwa is not legally binding, and sometimes actually it's like finding second opinion in the medical issues. For example, we can ask one question to different religious leaders or religious authority, female ulama, and then we compare between, for example, we ask to two female ulama. We can compare which one is more beneficial for us, and then we follow that fatwa. Is no problem.
So no one is ever, like, say, I'll use the Indonesian word malu here. No one's ever malu, ashamed or worried when they come back to Ibu Umi Hanik and they haven't followed her advice. They're not afraid of what she's going to think or say.
Yeah, it's no problem because it's like optional. Even one of my research participants, she usually give like option, like you can choose between these two options of answer. Like which one is doable for you between these two answer? Yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, now the next question is from Yudi Prasetyo, who's at North Carolina State University, according to the question. And Yudi asks, how are the fatwas issued in Indonesia perceived internationally, especially in the context of global discussions on women's rights within Islam? And in here, my guess is that we can think about this in terms of the larger, like the large organization, the NU Women's Organization that's issuing fatwas, right? So is there any kind of response internationally to these fatwas?
Uh, Sorry, could you uh could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the questioner wants to know if the fatwas that are issued in here, I think this is more the fatwas that are issued by the larger organizations, not the individuals, but the larger organizations.
Mhm.
How are they received internationally? Like, is anyone outside of Indonesia aware of them, or anything like that?
Hmm. I'm not sure about the fatwa institutions in Indonesia like Basul Masail of NU, and then Majlis Tarjah Muhammadiyah, and also the MUI, in terms of whether their fatwa can also influence or be used by other people, other Muslim people outside Indonesia. But um, for the Indonesian Congress of Female Ulama, because the issue that they discuss is quite controversial, and usually the fatwa related to these issues are mainstream, not like the fatwa is not like gender sensitive fatwa. So when the Congress issued gender sensitive fatwas related to these controversial issues, it's become like internationally recognized, and maybe because that's interesting and something new. So although I'm not sure whether other like organization in other Muslim countries use this fatwa issued by KUPI, but at least they recognize that this is an important fatwa, and we can use this fatwa to like advocate about sexual violence or about child marriage.
So you mentioned international community generally. Can you say where? Do you know where there has been attention to the fatwas?
Yeah, like because in the Congress, besides the participants came from Indonesia, there are also some like ulama from Nigeria, from Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, and other Muslim countries.
So would you say then that the Indonesian women who are involved in this are sort of leading that discussion, or is it more of an international discussion?
That's the Indonesian female ulama are leading the discussion, because the context is within Indonesia, although actually the issue or the problems related to child marriage and sexual violence is not exclusively happen only in Indonesia, but also other countries.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That was really, really helpful. Okay, here's a question from Jai Star, who I think is a friend, right? And Jai's wants to come back to this question, which I agree was an interesting question about the ramifications of not following a fatwa or fatawa, right? So, and Jai asked specifically about the ramifications for choosing not to follow a fatawa for the soul in the next life, right? So, maybe there are no social sanctions, but what are the ramifications kind of spiritually?
I think we need more like research about that. But as long as I understand from my interview with this female ulama, most of the jamaah or the Islamic congregation where these female ulama deliver Islamic lessons, and then after that there is question and answer related to a certain topic discussed in the religious learning. They will apply or use the fatwa, because the question is not how to say. So when they ask something, it means that they are serious. They want to know about something, and then they can apply what they from the answer in their everyday life.
Okay, so here's a question from Rita Melinawati. Assalamualaikum. Nice presentation, Ibu. Just simple question. What do you expect from the Islamic women's movement in Indonesia? So this is a question about the future, right? So based on your research, based on your work generally, what do you expect from Islamic women's movements going forward?
Yeah, I expect that this movement is not stuck, or it will develop and keep going in Indonesia. And in order to maintain this movement, I think one important thing that we can do is like regeneration. So by inviting more young people, young female leaders in Indonesia to get involved in this movement, and to also use like new tools, not only like for those who are, for example, this if these female ulama are only relying on like traditional tools, for example, by speaking directly to jamaah in Masjid Taklim, young people can use other tools like technology to transfer the fatwa and also to translate, because fatwa, for example, fatwa issued by the Indonesian Congress of Female Ulama. The way they write the fatwa is like academic writing using difficult like terms and also expanded explanation. So there is like homework for this female ulama, how to make it easier to understand, especially for those who are at the grassroots level, who don't have like enough background about Islamic terms and also like analysis or anything else. So how to translate this difficult quote unquote fatwa to be more like easier for any people without Islamic background even to understand the fatwa.
Okay, so the next question, I'm going to focus on the second part of this next question, in part in the interest of time. We're getting close to the end here. And this question is a question about family matters, specifically polygamy, which the speaker or the questioner Lara Susanti notes was a deal breaker when the marriage law was drafted. And so the speaker asks whether there have been any fatwas on polygamy that you've come across in your research.
Yeah, about polygamy, I haven't found the fatwa related to polygamy, especially the fatwa issued by female ulama, collective female ulama from in the Indonesian Congress of Women's Ulama. The issue they discussed in the religious deliberation, like I mentioned before, in the first Congress is about the 3 issues. And in the second Congress in 2022, there were 5 issues, but none of them is about polygamy. But I'm sure that individual female ulama, they have their opinion related to polygamy.
Okay, all right. I think we are gonna go ahead and call it there. We keep on getting great questions, but we're reaching the end. I just want to take this moment to thank all who came, to thank Dr. Ismah in particular for being here and sharing her research with us. And to thank the GISC for hosting. And yeah, so I hope everyone has a good night and stays warm. And I know we all look forward to seeing you at the next event. So thank you.